The flash of cameras still haunts my dreams, not because I miss them, but because they captured the exact moment my sister destroyed everything I'd built. I remember standing there, my hands trembling as I gripped the podium, watching Eloise's perfectly painted lips curve into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. My name is Amara, and 5 years ago, I founded what would become one of the most sought-after luxury fashion brands in New York. Now, I'm watching my legacy crumble on live television. The board has decided unanimously, Eloise announced to the room full of reporters, her voice dripping with false sympathy. My sister is no longer fit to lead this company. Her outdated vision and, frankly, washed-up ideas are holding us back from reaching our full potential. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The same sister I'd raised after our parents died, the one I'd pushed into the spotlight because she had that special something, that magnetic presence I knew would take our brand to new heights, was now orchestrating my downfall. Amara, Milena whispered, grabbing my arm. We need to leave, now. My best friend since childhood tried to pull me toward the exit, but I stood frozen. A reporter's voice cut through the chaos. Eloise, are you saying your sister, the original founder, is being removed from her own company? Sometimes, Eloise paused, making eye contact with me. We must make difficult decisions for the greater good. The numbers don't lie. Since I became the face of the brand, our sales have tripled. The board agrees. It's time for fresh blood. Fresh blood. As if I were some aging matriarch refusing to step aside. I was 35 for God's sake. This is ridiculous. I finally found my voice, stepping forward. Eloise, what are you doing? She turned to me, her expression a masterpiece of practiced concern. Oh, sis, I knew you'd take this poorly, but let's not make a scene. A scene? I laughed, the sound hollow. You're staging a corporate coup, and you're worried about me making a scene. Nathaniel, our lead investor, stepped forward. Just yesterday, we'd been discussing expansion plans over coffee. Now he wouldn't meet my eyes. The paperwork has already been filed, Amara. Your shares have been diluted. The board vote was unanimous. Unanimous. I scanned the room, finding familiar faces, suddenly very interested in their shoes. I wasn't even notified of a vote. Because you would have tried to stop it, Eloise said, her voice carrying to every microphone in the room. Just like you tried to stop me from becoming the face of the brand initially, always holding me back, always insisting on having control. My blood ran cold. This wasn't impromptu. She'd planned this, crafted this narrative. How long had she been plotting? I gave you everything, I said, my voice breaking. I put you through modeling school. I made you the face of our brand when everyone said you were too young. I protected you. Protected me. Eloise's laugh was sharp. You mean controlled me, used me. But now, she gestured to the room. Now I'm free. And honestly, sis, you're just a washed-up failure who can't accept that times have changed. The room fell silent. In that moment, I saw not my baby sister, but a stranger wearing her face. Milena tugged my arm again. Come on, Amara, let's go. As we turned to leave, Eloise's voice followed us. Don't worry, sis. I'll take good care of your baby, better than you ever could. The next few hours passed in a blur. Milena took me to her apartment, made tea I couldn't drink, and tried to reach our lawyers. But I already knew it was too late. Eloise had been meticulous. She'd spent months quietly gathering support, convincing investors, manipulating numbers to support her narrative. We can fight this, Milena insisted, pacing her living room. There have to be legal options. I stared at my phone, watching as fashion blogs picked up the story. Fashion's new queen, Eloise Stevenson takes control. Sister act gone wrong. Inside fashion's most dramatic takeover. She's won, Milena, I whispered. She took everything. Not everything. Milena sat beside me, gripping my hands. You still have your talent, your vision. This isn't the end. But as I watched my sister smile triumphantly on every news channel, wearing the dress I'd designed for our spring collection, I felt something inside me break. The sister I'd raised, protected, loved. She'd planned my destruction with the same precision I'd once used to plan our success. My phone buzzed with a text from Eloise. "Don't worry, I'll send your things from the office. Though honestly, there's not much worth keeping. Time to step aside gracefully, sis. You're yesterday's news." I turned off my phone, walked to Milena's window, and watched the city lights blur through my tears. Tomorrow I would have to figure out how to start over. But tonight? Tonight, I let myself mourn the death of a sister's love. 6 months can change everything. I traded my penthouse for a tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn, my designer wardrobe for thrift store finds, and my identity for anonymity. The fashion world's whispers about my disappearance eventually faded to silence, exactly as I'd planned. "You're getting really good at this," Sarah, the community center's coordinator, said as I helped a teenage girl adjust the hem of her donated prom dress. "Are you sure you've never done alterations before?" I forced a smile, threading the needle with practiced ease. "Just a hobby." The community center became my sanctuary. 3 days a week, I volunteered in their Dress for Success program, helping women prepare for job interviews or special occasions. Nobody here knew me as Amara, the fallen fashion designer. To them, I was just Amy, the quiet volunteer who could work magic with a needle and thread. "There," I said to the teenager, stepping back. "Take a look." She twirled in front of the mirror, her face lighting up. "It's perfect. Mom, look." Her mother wiped away tears. "We could never have afforded something like this." "Thank you," I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Once upon a time, I'd designed dresses that cost more than some people's monthly rent. Now I found more joy in these simple alterations than I ever had in my highest-profile fashion shows. My phone buzzed. Milena had sent a link with the message, "You need to see this." I waited until my break to watch it. The video showed Eloise leaving a high-end restaurant, wearing one of my final designs, a midnight blue evening gown I'd created just before the takeover. A homeless woman approached her, asking for spare change. "Ugh, get away from me," Eloise sneered, stepping back. "You'll ruin my dress. It's worth more than you'll see in a lifetime." The woman persisted. "Please, miss, I haven't eaten today." "Then get a job," Eloise laughed, turning to her companions. "Can you believe these people? They think they're entitled to everything. Security." My hands shook as I watched the video go viral. Comments flooding in about Eloise's cruelty. The woman's face haunted me. I could have been her, would have been, if not for Milena's support in those first desperate months. "Amy," Sarah's voice startled me. "Your break ended 10 minutes ago. We have a group of women waiting for interview outfit consultations." "Sorry, I'm coming." I shoved my phone away, but the image of Eloise's sneering face stayed with me. The afternoon brought a surprise. A woman in her 50s entered, clutching a designer bag that had seen better days. "I have an interview," she said, voice trembling. "First one in 15 years. My husband. He left us with nothing." I recognized the haunted look in her eyes. "Let's find you something perfect." As I helped her try on blazers, she spoke softly. "I used to wear Stevenson designs, you know, before the divorce. Now I can barely afford groceries." My hands froze on the blazer buttons. "The younger sister runs it now, right?" she continued. "I saw that horrible video today. Makes me ashamed I ever supported the brand." "Here," I said quickly, handing her a classic black blazer. "This one brings out your confidence." She studied herself in the mirror. "You're right, I actually feel powerful." "Because you are," I said firmly. "The clothes don't make you powerful. They just remind you of the power you already have." That evening, as I locked up with Sarah, my phone buzzed again. Milena had sent another message. "Eloise's video has over 2 million views. Her PR team is in damage control. Maybe it's time to come back?" I typed back, "Not yet." At home, I pulled out my sketchbook, the only piece of my old life I'd kept. My fingers moved across the paper, creating designs that would never see runways or magazine covers. But for the first time in months, I felt the familiar spark of inspiration. My phone lit up with a news alert. Stevenson brand faces backlash. After CEO's viral video, stock prices drop. I should have felt satisfied, vindicated. Instead, I felt hollow. A knock at my door made me jump. I opened it to find Milena holding takeout bags. "Enough hiding," she said, pushing past me. "You're designing again. I can tell by that look in your eyes. They're just sketches. They're more than that." She pulled out containers of Chinese food. "You're healing. And while you've been hiding, Eloise has been destroying everything you built. That brand used to stand for elegance and accessibility. Now it's just another symbol of excess and cruelty." "What do you expect me to do?" I asked, stabbing at my noodles. "Fight back, not for revenge, but for every woman who believed in what you created. For that homeless woman Eloise humiliated. For yourself." I looked at my sketches, then at the news alert still glowing on my phone. "I can't, not yet." "Fine," Milena said, reaching for my sketchbook. "Then at least show me what you've been working on." As I shared my designs, something stirred inside me. Not the burning need for revenge, but a quiet determination to reclaim what was mine. Not the company, but my voice, my vision, my truth. The morning after Eloise's viral video disaster, I arrived at the community center to find Sarah practically bouncing with excitement. "Amy, you won't believe this." She waved a letter in my face. "Remember that formal wear drive we did last month? Someone saw the photos online and sent us this." I took the letter, my heart stopping, as I recognized the elegant letterhead. Omar Thornton Investments, one of the most influential names in fashion financing. "They want to sponsor our program," Sarah continued. "Full funding for a year, plus new sewing machines and materials. Can you believe it?" I could, actually. Omar had always had an eye for potential, even in unexpected places. But why here? Why now? "There's more," Sarah added. "They're sending a representative next week to see our work. They specifically mentioned wanting to meet our talented seamstress." My hands trembled. "Sarah, I can't." "Please, Amy, this could change everything for the center." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Another news alert. Stevenson brand faces further criticism as more videos surface. CEO Eloise Stevenson's pattern of behavior questioned. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked, noticing my expression. "Fine," I said quickly. "Just family stuff." The next week passed in a blur of preparation. I threw myself into organizing the center's workspace, trying to ignore the growing knot in my stomach. Every news alert about Eloise showed her spiraling, snapping at reporters, canceling appearances, her carefully crafted image crumbling. The day of Omar's visit arrived with unexpected chaos. A pipe burst in the main room, forcing us to relocate to the smaller back studio. I was helping move supplies when I heard familiar voices. "The space has so much potential." Omar's deep voice carried through the hallway. "Sometimes the most impressive work happens in unexpected places." I ducked behind a rack of dresses, my heart pounding. Through the gaps between hangers, I watched Omar enter with Sarah. He looked exactly as I remembered. Tall, distinguished, with kind eyes that missed nothing. "Amy," Sarah called out. "Where are you? I want you to meet Mr. Thornton." Taking a deep breath, I stepped out. Omar's eyes widened slightly, but he gave no other sign of recognition. "So you're the miracle worker I've heard about," he said smoothly, extending his hand. "Sarah tells me you have quite a talent." I shook his hand, playing along. "I just enjoy helping people feel confident." "Show him the blue dress," Sarah insisted, pulling out my latest project, a donated wedding gown I'd transformed into an evening dress. Omar examined the alterations, his fingers tracing the seams. "Extraordinary work. The technique here, it reminds me of someone I used to know." Our eyes met briefly. He knew. Of course, he knew. "Perhaps," he continued, "we could discuss expanding this program. There's clearly a need for quality fashion education in the community." After Omar left, Sarah hugged me tightly. "This is amazing, though it's weird." He spent more time looking at your work than anything else. That evening, I found a business card in my bag with a handwritten note. Some talents can't stay hidden forever. Call me when you're ready. I was still staring at the card when Milena burst into my apartment. Have you seen this? She thrust her tablet at me. On screen was a fashion blog featuring side-by-side photos. One of my recent community center alterations next to one of my original designs from 5 years ago. The headline read, Mystery Seamstress or Hidden Legend. The striking similarities that have fashion insiders talking. It's starting, Milena said. People are noticing. Omar's visit wasn't a coincidence. I'm not ready, I whispered. Look at this. She pulled up another article. Eloise just fired her 3rd design team this year. The fall collection is a disaster. She's losing control. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Your sister's weakness was always creation. She could sell ice to Eskimos, but she couldn't design her way out of a paper bag. Oh. I sank onto my couch, remembering all the late nights I'd spent teaching Eloise about fabric and form. Watching her eyes glaze over with boredom. She'd wanted the glamour, not the craft. The universe has a funny way of balancing things, Milena said softly. You disappeared to hide, but your talent kept showing through. Meanwhile, Eloise's true nature is finally showing through her perfect facade. I picked up my sketchbook, flipping through recent designs. They were different from my old work, simpler, more accessible, but somehow more powerful. Maybe, I said slowly, it's time to stop hiding. Milena grinned. Finally, so what's the plan? I pulled out Omar's card. First, we make a call. Then, we remind the world what real design looks like. As I dialed Omar's number, I caught my reflection in the window. For the first time in months, I recognized the woman staring back at me. She wasn't broken anymore. She was ready. Omar's office hadn't changed, still minimalist, with a single massive window overlooking Manhattan. I sat across from him, feeling oddly calm, as he reviewed my new sketches. These are different, he said finally, more accessible. But the signature is unmistakable. That's the point, I replied. Luxury doesn't have to mean exclusivity. He leaned back, studying me. You know, I tried to contact you after the takeover. Your friend Milena told me to give you space. I needed it. I gestured to the sketches. I needed to remember who I was without the brand. And now I want to create again. But differently. No more hiding behind a luxury label. Omar smiled, pulling out a folder. I was hoping you'd say that. I've been watching the market. Your sister's recent mishaps have created an opening. He spread photos across his desk, my community center alterations, side by side with my old designs. These have been circulating in fashion circles. People are talking. They miss your vision. I don't want to fight Eloise, I said firmly. No? He raised an eyebrow. Then what do you want? Before I could answer, his office door burst open. A young man with a messenger bag rushed in, then stopped short when he saw me. Mr. Thornton, I'm so sorry, he stammered. Your assistant said you were free. Jalen. Omar sighed. Our meeting isn't for another hour. I recognized him from Fashion Week coverage. Jalen O'Connor, the ambitious young journalist known for uncovering industry secrets. Is that? Jalen's eyes widened. You're Amara Stevenson. No comment, I said automatically. Please, he stepped forward. I've been trying to find you for months. The real story behind your departure needs to be told. Omar held up a hand. Jalen, this isn't the time. But the public deserves to know how Eloise. Enough. I stood up. The past is past. Is it? Jalen pulled out his phone. Your sister just announced emergency layoffs at your old company. 300 workers, most from the production department. People who've been there since you started. My stomach dropped. Those were my people. The seamstresses, pattern makers, quality control specialists I'd personally hired. She's destroying everything you built, Jalen continued. Not just the brand, but the lives of everyone who helped create it. Omar shot him a warning look. But I held up my hand. No, he's right. I've been so focused on avoiding confrontation that I forgot about the people who believed in my vision. I turned to Omar. You said there's an opening in the market. What exactly did you have in mind? He smiled, pulling out another folder. How do you feel about launching a new line? Not high-end luxury, but quality fashion for real people. We'll start small, focus on sustainable production, fair wages. With your name attached, Jalen asked eagerly. No, I said firmly, not yet. Let the designs speak for themselves first. Omar nodded. I can have contracts drawn up by tomorrow. Initial funding, production facilities, distribution channels, everything you need. On one condition, I added. We hire as many of Eloise's laid-off workers as we can. Done. Omar extended his hand. Welcome back to the industry. As we shook hands, Jalen cleared his throat. So, about that exclusive interview. Not yet, I said, but smiled. But stay close. There might be a story worth telling soon. Later that evening, I sat with Milena in my tiny apartment, sharing the news over takeout. Look at this, she said, showing me her phone. A new video of Eloise had surfaced, showing her berating a design team. The mighty queen is cracking. I don't want revenge, I said quietly. I want to build something better. Why not both? Milena grinned. The best revenge is success, right? My phone buzzed with a text from Omar. Production space secured. Team interviews start tomorrow. Ready to change the game? I looked at my sketches spread across the coffee table. Designs that combined high-end techniques with practical accessibility. Clothes that could make anyone feel powerful, not just those who could afford four-figure price tags. You know, Milena said, Eloise's fall fashion show is in 6 weeks. Wouldn't it be something if a mysterious new collection launched around the same time? That would be quite a coincidence, I smiled, already sketching new ideas. Coincidences make the best headlines, she winked. My phone buzzed again, Jalen this time. Sources say Eloise is panic hiring her 4th design team this year. The vultures are circling. When you're ready to talk, I'm ready to listen. I set my phone aside and picked up my sketchbook. 6 weeks to build something new, something true. 6 weeks to remind the world what real fashion could be. Time to get to work, I said, and began to draw. The fashion show venue buzzed with anticipation. From my position backstage, I watched the monitors as Eloise strutted down the runway, performing her usual pre-show interview. Of course I'm not worried about the new mystery designer everyone's talking about, she laughed. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. Copycats come and go. We set the trends. Maria, my former head seamstress, who'd joined my new team, squeezed my arm. She's scared. Look at her hands. She keeps fidgeting with her bracelet. Focus on our show, I reminded her. We're on in 20 minutes. Omar had secured us the venue next door to Eloise's show, a smaller, more intimate space that perfectly suited our vision. While she showcased overpriced luxury, we'd present affordable elegance. Amara, Milena rushed over, phone in hand. Nathaniel just arrived at Eloise's show. He looks terrible. I glanced at the live feed. My former investor did look rough. Tired eyes, loosened tie. The past month's plummeting stock prices had taken their toll. 5 minutes, called the stage manager. First looks ready. I checked our first model, a former secretary wearing a navy blazer dress that could transition from office to evening. Real clothes for real women. We'd selected models of all ages and sizes, many of them clients from the community center. Ms. Amy, Sarah from the center appeared, looking nervous in her new role as show coordinator. There's a reporter asking questions about you, says his name is Jalen. Tell him, I started, but stopped as commotion erupted from the monitors. On screen, Eloise's show was derailing. A model had tripped, revealing poorly finished seams as her dress ripped. Another model's zipper had completely failed. Amateur mistakes, Maria muttered. This is what happens when you fire your entire quality control team. The audience at Eloise's show began to whisper and point. Several major buyers stood up and left. Through it all, Eloise stood frozen at the end of the runway, her perfect mask cracking. 2 minutes, called our stage manager. Amara, Milena grabbed my arm. Nathaniel just walked out of Eloise's show. He's coming this way. Sure enough, my former investor appeared backstage, looking desperate. I should have never betrayed you, he blurted out. Eloise, she's destroying everything. You're not supposed to be back here, I said coldly. Please, he stepped closer. Let me invest in whatever you're doing. I know it's you behind these designs everyone's talking about. The craftsmanship, the attention to detail. It could only be you. Place is everyone. The stage manager's call saved me from responding. You need to leave, Milena told Nathaniel firmly. As security escorted him out, I turned to my team. Remember why we're here. Not for revenge, not for headlines, but for every person who deserves to feel beautiful without going bankrupt. The lights dimmed. Our show began. One by one, our models emerged. Teachers, nurses, office workers, stay-at-home moms, all wearing designs that made them look like the best versions of themselves. The audience leaned forward in their seats, phones raised to capture every moment. Halfway through, Sarah rushed over. Eloise's show just ended early. People are coming over here. I peeked through the curtain. Sure enough, buyers and journalists were filing in, including several who'd walked out of Eloise's show. Among them, I spotted Jalen, scribbling furiously in his notebook. The energy in the room shifted as our final look appeared. A simple black dress that could be styled 10 different ways, modeled by the same woman Eloise had mocked in the viral video. We'd found her through the community center, learned her name was Regina, and offered her both a job and a chance to make a statement. The audience erupted in applause. Through the monitor, I caught a glimpse of Eloise standing at the back of the room, her face pale. Time for the designer's bow, the stage manager whispered. I shook my head. Not yet. Let the clothes speak for themselves. As the applause continued, Jalen's voice carried over the crowd. Sources confirm these designs are by Amara Stevenson. The original founder has returned. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Phones flashed. Near the exit, Eloise turned and fled. What now? Milena asked as we watched the chaos unfold. Before I could answer, Omar appeared. Now we watch the orders pour in. Major retailers are already calling. They want these clothes in their stores immediately. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. You won. Happy now, sis? I deleted it without responding. This wasn't about winning or losing anymore. It was about building something real, something that mattered. Orders can wait, I told Omar. First, we celebrate with the people who made this possible. I gathered my team, the seamstresses, pattern makers, and workers who'd believed in this vision. Together, we'd created something bigger than revenge. We'd created hope. And somewhere in the back of the venue, I heard Jalen's voice. The real story isn't about a fashion comeback. It's about karma, justice, and the power of staying true to your vision. The morning after our show, I arrived at our new office space to find it already buzzing with activity. Maria was directing the setup of our workstations, while Omar handled a stream of calls from retailers. There you are, Milena rushed over, tablet in hand. You need to see this. She pulled up a fashion blog's homepage. The headline screamed, Fashion's prodigal daughter returns. Amara's new line steals the show while Stevenson brand implodes. That's not all. She swiped to another article. Eloise has canceled all public appearances for the next week. Their stock dropped another 15% this morning. Focus on our work, I said, but Omar interrupted. Actually, you need to see this. He turned up the volume on the office TV, where Nathaniel was giving an interview. The truth is, he looked directly into the camera. We made a terrible mistake removing Amara from her own company. The recent quality issues, the PR disasters, the failed collections, it all stems from that decision. Turn it off, I said. But Omar held up his hand. Watch. I'm officially announcing my resignation from the Stevenson board, Nathaniel continued. And I'm calling for a full investigation into the circumstances surrounding Amara's removal. The office fell silent. He's trying to save himself, Milena scoffed. My phone buzzed. Jalen again. Need to meet. Have documents about the takeover, things you should see. Before I could respond, Maria called out, Someone's here to see you, Amara. I turned to find Regina, our final model from the show, standing nervously in the doorway. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, but there's something you should know. After the show last night, Eloise tried to hire me. What? She offered me triple whatever you're paying. Said she needed to fix her image. I told her no, but Regina hesitated. She seemed desperate, unhinged almost. Omar's phone rang. His expression turned serious as he listened. The board is meeting tomorrow, he announced, after hanging up. They're discussing Eloise's position as CEO. That's not our concern, I said firmly, turning to Regina. Let's talk about your role in our marketing campaign. But before we could continue, the office door burst open. Eloise stood there, mascara smeared, her perfect image completely shattered. How dare you, she snarled, stalking toward me. You couldn't just stay gone, could you? Had to come back and ruin everything. Security moved to intercept her, but I held up my hand. Let her speak. Speak? Eloise laughed hysterically. Oh, now you want to hear what I have to say. Where was that attitude when you were controlling every aspect of my life, making me live in your shadow? You were never in my shadow, I said quietly. You were my partner, my sister. Partner? She spat the word. I was your puppet. The pretty face you trotted out when you needed publicity. But guess what? I proved I could run this company better than you. Omar cleared his throat. The numbers suggest otherwise. Stay out of this, Eloise whirled on him. You're just another traitor, all of you are. She gestured wildly at Maria and the other former employees. We left because you destroyed everything good about the company, Maria said firmly. Eloise turned back to me, tears streaming down her face. Fix this. You have to fix this. Tell them you're coming back. We can run it together again. No, I said softly. I'm not coming back. I'm building something new, something better. Then I'll destroy you, she whispered. I'll tell everyone how you abandoned the company, how you… That's enough. Jalen stepped out from behind a partition, his phone recording everything. I think I have all I need for my story. Eloise froze. You set me up. You set yourself up, Milena interjected. Everything you're facing now, it's all your own doing. Security finally stepped forward, gently but firmly, escorting my sister toward the door. She stopped at the threshold, looking back at me with red-rimmed eyes. I hate you, she whispered, but her voice cracked on the last word. After she left, the office remained silent for a long moment. Well, Omar said finally, that should make tomorrow's board meeting interesting. Are you really going to let Jalen publish that? Milena asked. I looked at the journalist, who was reviewing the footage. No names, I said. No direct quotes. Focus on the business story, not the family drama. Jalen nodded slowly. The rise and fall of an empire, and the birth of a new one. I can work with that. I turned to my team, who had witnessed everything. Back to work. We have orders to fill, customers to serve, and a vision to fulfill. As everyone dispersed, Omar touched my arm. You know this isn't over. The board meeting tomorrow. Let them handle their own mess, I said firmly. We have better things to focus on. But as I walked to my office, I couldn't shake the image of my sister's tear-stained face. In trying to destroy me, she'd destroyed herself instead. Maybe that was the cruelest revenge of all. The Fashion Week finale was supposed to be Eloise's moment of redemption. Instead, as I stood in the wings of the main stage, I watched my sister's world collapse in real time. The board has made its decision, Nathaniel announced to the packed auditorium. Effective immediately, Eloise Stevenson is stepping down as CEO. Camera flashes exploded. Eloise, standing at the podium, gripped its edges until her knuckles turned white. "Don't do this," she whispered into the microphone, not realizing it was still live. "Please." Additionally, Nathaniel continued, "We're announcing a complete restructuring of the company's creative direction." Milena appeared at my side. "You should be out there." "No," I shook my head. "This isn't my moment." But fate had other plans. Eloise's eyes found me in the wings, and suddenly she was pointing, her voice rising hysterically. "There she is, the puppet master herself. Come on out, sister dear. Show everyone how you orchestrated my downfall." Security moved forward, but Eloise was already storming toward me. The cameras followed, live streaming every moment to the fashion world. "Eloise," I said quietly, "don't do this." "Don't do what?" She laughed, the sound brittle. "Tell the truth, how you couldn't stand seeing me succeed. How you sent your little spies to sabotage me." "You sabotaged yourself," Milena snapped, but I held up my hand. "No one sabotaged you, Eloise. You had everything. Talent, opportunity, support. But it wasn't enough, was it?" "Enough?" Her voice cracked. "I had nothing. Just a sister who controlled every aspect of my life, who made me feel small, who, I taught you everything I knew." The words burst out before I could stop them. "I showed you every technique, every trade secret. I wanted you to succeed." "Liar." But there were tears in her eyes now. "You wanted a pretty face to hide behind. Someone to parade in front of cameras while you played puppet master." The audience was dead silent. Hundreds of phones recording our confrontation. "Is that what you really believe?" I stepped closer. "That I put you through modeling school, made you the face of our brand, gave you half my company because I wanted to control you?" "Why else?" she whispered. "Because you're my sister. Because after our parents died, I promised I'd give you every opportunity I could. Because I loved you." The past tense hung heavy in the air. "Loved." Her voice was small now. "You destroyed everything we built together, not because you had to, but because you couldn't stand sharing the spotlight." She swayed slightly. "I didn't mean." "Yes, you did." I kept my voice gentle. "You meant every word when you called me a washed-up failure, every action when you turned our investors against me, every moment when you destroyed the lives of people who depended on us." Tears were flowing freely down her face now. The mighty queen of fashion, reduced to a scared little girl. "I just wanted," she choked out, "to be seen." I finished. "I know, but you were always seen, Eloise. You just couldn't see it yourself." She crumpled then, right there on stage. I caught her before she hit the ground, and suddenly we were both crying. Years of pain and betrayal pouring out in front of hundreds of witnesses. "I'm sorry," she sobbed into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry. I ruined everything." The cameras kept rolling as I held my sister, remembering the little girl who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms, who wore my designs before anyone else would look at them, who once believed I hung the moon. "Not everything," I said softly. "Some things can be rebuilt." Nathaniel cleared his throat awkwardly. "Perhaps we should continue this in private." But Eloise straightened up, wiping her eyes. "No, everyone wanted a show, right? Well, here's your headline. I screwed up. I let jealousy and insecurity destroy the best thing in my life, my sister's trust." The room erupted in camera flashes and shouted questions. "What happens now? Will you two work together again? Is this the end of the Stevenson brand?" I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw both the woman she'd become and the girl she'd been. "The brand isn't what matters," I said, into the nearest microphone. "What matters is what we do next, all of us." I gestured to the audience, filled with industry players who'd watched our rise and fall. Fashion isn't about destruction or competition. It's about creation, about making people feel seen, feel worthy, feel beautiful. I lost sight of that once. So did my sister, but maybe. I turned to Eloise, extending my hand. "Maybe it's time we both remembered why we started this journey in the first place." She stared at my hand for a long moment before taking it. "Together," she whispered. "No," I said firmly. side by side, as equals, on our own paths. The cameras flashed again, capturing the moment two sisters began the long journey back to each other. Not as rivals, not as partners, but as something new entirely, something real. The community center buzzed with activity as I helped Regina adjust her blazer before her first day as our new marketing director. Still can't believe this is happening, she smiled at her reflection. From asking for spare change to having an office. You earned it, I said, straightening her collar. Your story helped shape our entire brand message. The center had transformed into a hybrid space, part training facility, part design studio. Through the windows, I could see students arriving for today's fashion business workshop. Your 9 o'clock is here, Milena called from the doorway. And you won't believe who it is. I turned to find Eloise standing there, clutching a portfolio and looking nervous. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect makeup. She wore simple black pants and a white blouse, one of my designs. I saw the flyer about the mentorship program, she said softly. Thought maybe I could learn how to actually design. Regina tensed beside me, but I touched her arm. It's okay. Why don't you go start the morning meeting? After Regina left, Eloise stepped forward. I'm not asking for forgiveness or a position. I want to learn, really learn this time. Take a seat, I gestured to the workstation. Show me what you've got. Her sketches were rough, but showed promise. More importantly, they showed humanity. Designs for real people, not magazine covers. I've been volunteering at a women's shelter, she explained, pointing to a simple dress design, teaching basic sewing. It made me realize how little I actually knew about construction. That's a good place to start, I nodded, understanding the basics. Omar appeared in the doorway, then stopped short, seeing Eloise. Should I come back? No, I waved him in. How are the expansion plans? 3 new training centers opening next month, he grinned. And the waiting list for the apprenticeship program keeps growing. Eloise watched our interaction with a mixture of sadness and curiosity. You've built something amazing here. We all did, I corrected her. Even you. Me? I nearly destroyed everything. And in doing so, you forced me to build something better. I picked up one of her sketches. Sometimes we need to lose everything to find what really matters. The door burst open, and Jalen rushed in, waving his tablet. The article just dropped. Fashion Weekly's cover story. The revolution of accessible luxury. How Amara changed the industry. I thought we agreed no personal profiles. I frowned. It's not about you, he insisted. It's about this. He gestured around the center. The training programs, the sustainable practices, the community impact. You're changing how fashion works. We're changing it, I corrected him, looking at my sister. All of us. Eloise wiped away a tear. I don't deserve to be part of this. Maybe not, I agreed, but that's not the point. The point is doing the work, making things right. Are you ready to do that? She nodded, pulling out more sketches. I've been thinking about a line for the shelter residents, professional wear for job interviews, but with adjustable features so it can be shared between women. As she talked, I saw glimpses of the sister I used to know. Passionate, caring, before ambition twisted her. Maria poked her head in. Sorry to interrupt, but the first class is waiting. Coming, I stood, then turned to Eloise. Want to sit in, learn how we do things here? She looked surprised. Really? Really, but understand. You start at the beginning. No shortcuts. No shortcuts, she agreed, gathering her sketches. We walked into the classroom together, where 20 aspiring designers waited. Through the windows, I could see the city skyline. The same view I'd had from my old office, but somehow clearer now. Welcome to Design Fundamentals. I addressed the class. I'm Amara, and this is my sister Eloise. Today, we're going to talk about something more important than fashion. We're going to talk about purpose. As I spoke, I watched Eloise take a seat in the back row, pull out a notebook, and begin to take notes. Not as a CEO, not as a star, but as a student ready to learn. Milena slipped me a note. Karma's got a sense of humor, doesn't it? I smiled, thinking of my journey from luxury penthouses to community centers, from revenge to redemption. The fashion world had called it a comeback story, but they missed the point. This wasn't about coming back. It was about moving forward, about building something that mattered more than headlines or stock prices. Let's begin, I told the class, picking up a piece of chalk. Today, we're going to learn how to make something beautiful, not just expensive, something real, not just trendy, something that lasts. And in the back row, my sister, once my greatest enemy, now my most dedicated student, began to write.